Girls. All I really want is girls, and maybe a singular gay guy. Hello and welcome back to my series, and pole dancing. Today, as a companion piece to my video about sexuality and pole dancing, I want to discuss sexuality's twin flame, gender. For clarity's sake, in this video, when I say gender, I mean gender identity, how you present yourself to the world or to yourself, not chromosomal sex, although that does play a role as well. So you'll hear me say words like man, woman, non-binary, etc. I'm going to put some helpful definitions on the screen for us now. Cisgender, relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender corresponds with their birth sex. Transgender, relating to a person whose sense of personal identity and gender does not correspond with their birth sex. Gender nonconforming, relating to a person whose behavior or appearance does not conform to prevailing cultural and social expectations about what is appropriate for their gender. So, pole dancing. When we picture a pole dancer, who do we picture? If you're anything like the people I mentioned in my sexuality video, you probably picture a stripper with a bunch of dollar bills tucked into her G-string. Otherwise, you might picture one of those terrifyingly ripped women from a pole competition video. I just want to point out I Google image searched pole dance competition and look at this headline, pole dancing without nudity or G-strings, just express yourself. Like, what are we talking about here, the New York Times? Or maybe one of those gals showing off her moves on Instagram, or maybe even me from my own pole dancing channel, to which I say, stop it, you. Either way, the pole dancer in your head is probably a cisgender woman. Why is this? As far as I can find in my research, pole dancing as we know it today started as a sideshow act that was sort of like sexy gyrations around a wooden pole combined with belly dancing, trying to entice people to come see a circus. It was performed only by women. However, there is a different type of pole I haven't mentioned yet on my channel, Chinese pole, which doesn't involve minimal clothing and spinning, but does involve leaping acrobatically from one pole to the next. It originated in India and was performed by men. We still see pole performed mostly by men in India today, specifically the wrestling pole type of showcase. So, women weren't really doing Chinese pole, men weren't really doing what we consider modern pole dancing. Enter Fania Mundy, a Canadian-born athlete who is considered to be the world's first pole dancing instructor, breaking onto the scene in the early to mid-90s. She began teaching pole dancing to women. Even her website for her studio specifically mentions things like, every lady gets her own pole. As pole dancing and aerial arts in general have gained popularity alongside the boom of such social media platforms as YouTube and Instagram, more and more people, but especially women, have started to show off their moves and enjoy the clout that comes from it, or watch their pages get taken down for content violations. But either way, the scene is flooded with awesome, strong women showing off their pole skills. There's a lot of language floating around the pole world about embracing your femininity. When you dance, you're letting out the inner goddess, awakening the divine feminine, punching yourself in the eye with your own areola when you go upside down. And I'll be the first to admit, watching a beautiful, gleaming woman spin around a pole with her limbs all akimbo does feel pretty divine. And I would never criticize someone for using pole dancing as a spiritual practice to get in touch with their femininity. But I can also feel sometimes it's so much like a gender presentation that by the end of pole dancing, I'm just exhausted. I feel like I've put so much effort into going, look at me, I'm a woman. Sometimes it feels like the most valid form of pole dancing is hair down, makeup on, stilt heels, tiny lingerie, and anything less than that isn't properly honoring this divine feminine that I'm supposed to be expressing. I could be projecting, but I digress. As I mentioned in my sexuality video, pole dancing seems inexorably linked with stripping, at least in the Western mindset. Most strippers who pole dance are women. Male exotic dancers are known more for their moves done without apparatuses, for busting out moves like old Magic Mike. Side note, the movie's actually depressing as hell. There's like 5 minutes of dancing in it. So our perception becomes even more concrete that pole dancers are cisgender women. But of course, there are men doing this sport. Who are they? From an article named Let's Talk About Male Pole Dancing, I found these awesome fellows. Dmitry Politov, seen here making me poop my pants just thinking about doing what he's doing. Miha Cherney, who performs doubles pole. Coco K. Hong and Mario Turco, who sometimes perform in heels and makeup. And that was the end of that list. And Coco and Mario were listed in the same paragraph even though they're from different countries because they both wear makeup when they perform. Searching for male pole dancer on YouTube brings up Christian Lebedev's winning performance from the World Pole Dance Championships 5 years ago, and then a performance from America's Got Talent. We also have Shima, the featured performer in this video. I joined a Japanese pole dancing club. Let me be clear here, I'm not boo-hooing the fact that women are more known as pole artists. You know the thing when you talk about a women's issue and you can't get a few words out before someone shows up and goes, but men have issues too? Yeah, that's not the energy that I'm bringing to the table here. I just think it's an interesting phenomenon to observe that the sport seems to attract so many women and so few men. A huge part of this could be that pole is considered a feminine sport. Why is pole considered feminine? Like I've said before, you have to be pretty scantily clad to pull off pole dancing. Is there something about wearing minimal clothing that screams, this is only for women? Is it that pole dancing is just that, a form of dancing, and something about the artistic element is keeping men at bay? Is it the perception that I talked about in the previous video that pole dancing is only done for male eyes or male approval, so it wouldn't be a sport for manly straight men? Femininity, in the Western mindset, seems to be considered the stepping stone, or really the only thing that makes a man gay. So let's talk about this common conception that all male pole dancers are gay. It's sort of like every theater guy is gay, or every ice dancer is gay, you know, the vibe, which you sort of have a point, but what is the weird connection between being part of the arts and being gay, or at least considered gay? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk about trapeze again. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone assuming a male trapeze artist was gay. I mean, trapeze, come on, so manly, so rugged. Look at those back muscles. But pole? Ha! Gay! I really can't see the difference between holding on to a horizontal apparatus and holding on to a vertical apparatus, but we as a society just have issues with pole dancing, okay? Some elements of pole dancing are scary for men who have certain parts that other dancers don't have. Like, okay, I shove my crotch all the way up against the pole to do a thigh hold, and I'm fairly certain that would be less enjoyable if I had something there that I don't currently have. You know what I'm saying? But then again, some moves are frustratingly easy for cisgender male performers, like the big muscly show-off moves like an Iron X or inversions, all due to muscle and weight distribution, upper body strength, etc., etc. When men do pole dance, it generates a lot of attention. Maybe because it's fun to watch people try new things and sometimes fail at them, but I think people click onto videos of men trying pole dancing because it is so unexpected. I mean, if you recommended a video to me called Men Try Lifting Weights, probably wouldn't watch it, but men try pole dancing? I'm so there! In a perfect world, the gender binary would not exist. Anyone and everyone could order the pinkest, fruitiest drinks at the bar. They could grow their armpit hair out with abandon. They could practice ice dancing or football or hockey, and nobody would make any comments about any of that. But for some reason, we feel the need to categorize anything anybody does as masculine or feminine, which brings me to folks that don't fall in that binary, non-binary or gender non-conforming people. I don't have lived experience in this category, so please leave a comment below if I get anything wrong here. Currently, at least at pole competitions, there's a men's category and a women's category. I pulled this from the Pole Sport Organization website. Championship events will be separated by gender. Artistic events will not be separated. Ah yes, the three genders, women, men, and art. The rules go on to say, transgender information. You may enter as the gender you most identify with and are currently living as. Any inquiries, questions, or comments by competitors will be kept confidential. If you're not on the gender binary, what category do you compete in? Do you have to somehow pick a side for the sake of the competition? I think there's a perception that being non-binary is just like woman light, but that's not it at all. But that's at the highest level, when you go to compete, to be seen on a national stage. What about just in a humble little pole class? I think we're slowly moving in the right direction with gender-inclusive language, but I still think you're gonna get a lot of, okay ladies, or looking sexy girls in your pole class. Most pole websites specifically mention women or ladies or gals in their advertisements or scripting. If you're someone who doesn't identify as a woman or man, you might feel a bit unmoored in a pole class. You might be someone who wears a binder. You might be someone who gets a period but identifies as male. You might be someone with large breasts who identifies as non-binary, but whose body gets clocked as female anytime that you undress. I haven't even mentioned those who are in the process of transitioning from one gender to another, who may not have had a chance to get top or bottom surgery, or who may have no interest in surgeries at all, who might struggle to find that their minimally clothed body is not being perceived in a class as the gender they identify with. Like I said, pole dancing can involve a lot of embracing your femininity, which, even for me, a cisgender woman, can feel pretty cringe. So how must it feel for someone who's struggling to break free of the gender binary? Like in my sexuality video, I'm kind of being hyperbolic, maybe making this sound worse than it is. As I've said before, you're far more likely to end up in a class with nothing but supportive classmates who only need to be told your pronouns once and they'll get it right every time. But that won't be the reality if the pole community doesn't make it so. I think we need to make sharing pronouns a concrete part of the pole dancing world, starting with instructors and big-name pole influencers. If someone walks into your class and hears you introduce yourself with your pronouns, that takes the target off of their back when it comes time to share theirs. We also can work on gender-inclusive language. It's so easy to say, "Hey everyone," or "Hey folks," instead of "Hey ladies." This might sound a little bit like I'm being disdainful of all women's spaces, which pole classes have historically been. I think it's wonderful for there to be safe spaces for women to feel free to undress, express their sexuality, and not feel the pressure of male eyes. However, if your safe space doesn't also include trans women, femmes, or other marginalized genders, how safe is it really? I think Pole Sport Organization is on the right track with their transgender information, though they were the only big name pole group I could find that even mentioned trans competitors. But the reality is, non-binary people aren't going anywhere, so the door needs to be open for them as well, not to pick a side for the sake of a show, but to have a space already made for them. I wish I could recommend for you some trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming pole artists to follow, but the truth is, I don't know any. And that puts me at fault as well. We and I need to seek out those whose stories are different from our own to better understand them, to make sure they are welcome and comfortable in not just the pole world, but the whole world. Thank you so much for watching. If I got anything wrong in this discussion or missed something important, please do let me know in the comments below. Now, I'm gonna go embrace the divine feminine.
Ha! Gay!